Now, I am planning on doing like a generation lock. So that's playing through every single generation. And the one that I'm least looking forward to is Gen 2. They're so boring. The mons in them aren't exceptional like the first games and the third games and the fourth games. I genuinely think these are some of the worst games in the franchise. Now, you can hate me all you like. I can already...
Jake, I'm not happy with your takes. Your takes, especially on Johto, are fucking dog shit. So, here's your response to Pidge's tier list, where Pidge put Diamond and Pearl where they should be. So also, I'm going to start with Gen 1, just as you did. Red and Blue, I mainly agree with you, honestly, on these. They've aged pretty poorly. I'm very blind. But yeah, Red and Blue have aged very poorly. They're great when you play them for the first time. And that's about it. It's really starting to show its age now. The games are pretty much unplayable and are extremely unfair at times. Of which I feel a lot of games can be unfair, but Red and Blue are especially a massive case of proving it. Such as moves missing constantly for you, you get hit with crits all the time as well. And I just feel that Red and Blue, starting the franchise, alone makes it a B. If they were, say, Gen 2 games, they'd be a C. But Pokemon Yellow is the ultimate superior version of Red and Blue. You get access to all 3 starters. You get access to essentially the entire dex. Which, if you like to collect them all, and as Pokemon's tagline is, gotta catch them all, Pokemon Yellow is the best suited for this. And also, gotta catch them all features on the box art. Pokemon Yellow. And Red and Blue. And essentially until, what, Gen 3 is when they stopped doing it? So, that's the thing. But in Yellow, you have access to essentially all of the decks, other than Trade Evolutions immediately, because you have to trade them, hence why they're called Trade Evolutions. And essentially for the whole main plot of Pokemon, which is to catch them all, Yellow is superior and is also still somewhat playable today. Obviously next are the Gen 2 games. I can't believe you put Gen 2 in D. Gold, Silver are probably, honestly, I'll give them a C. They're not the worst games in the world, but they don't really evolve too much on the Gen 1 games. The Gen 1 games, with a different coat of paint, a few different Pokemon, half of the Johto games is spent in Kanto anyway, which obviously makes it a bit harder to properly judge them, because they don't really have much of an identity. However, Crystal is superior in every way, and Crystal is a solid A tier game. Crystal gives you Suicune, you get access to Celebi legitimately without any hacking, which is fantastic, and you can shiny hunt it. Crystal has the best sprites, right? They've got the best shiny sprites. Gen 2 is phenomenal, but only if you play through Crystal, and Crystal is still somewhat playable today. Now, I'll go in release order, so we'll go Ruby and Sapphire. They are genuinely one of the best games in the franchise. Ruby and Sapphire are phenomenal. Hoenn is by far the most interesting region, and the only downside is the amount of water it has. Ruby and Sapphire are phenomenal games with phenomenal storylines, but they come with a flaw, and it's that they're not Emerald. Emerald is the first S tier game on this list. Emerald is incredible. It is by far the best game in Gen 3. It has, I can't say it has the best legendary because Kyogre is my favourite legendary from Gen 3. But it has a better story. It has a better dex, pretty much, because you can get most of the Pokemon in Emerald. Everything is better in Emerald compared to Ruby and Sapphire, and that is essentially that. Fire Red and Leaf Green are just Red and Blue but better. Red and Blue, when they came out, phenomenal games. Fire Red and Leaf Green allow you to still play Kanto in a significantly superior way compared to anything else. If you want to play a Kanto game, you play Fire Red and Leaf Green, and it's simple as that. And now, Jake, I'm going to annoy you as well. I love Dialga, I love Palkia, but Gen 4 games in Gen 4 are dog shit. They are the worst games out of all the mainline ones to start with. The story, although it is good, is so slow and boring. The issues with the game, it's so glitchy, it has significant pacing issues, as well as leveling. You go into the Elite Four and it's like, oh, it's level 40s, level 40s, level 40s, and you're around the same level. And then Cynthia's Garchomp is in the mid to late 60s. That is ridiculous. The level scaling in Diamond and Pearl is awful. And BDSP does it significantly better. However, Platinum is a solid B tier game. Platinum has a significantly better dex. There's actually more than, what, 2 or 3 fire types now in Sinnoh? Giratina introduced. Fantastic legendary. You can get Dialga and Palkia in Platinum. Again, phenomenal. You can do so much more in Platinum than you can in Diamond and Pearl. And Platinum isn't even just 1 tier above, it's 2 tiers above for everything that is done right compared to how Sinnoh was originally. Now, Black and White. Where do we go with Black and White? Honestly, Black and White 1 are solid A tier games. Fantastic story, fantastic decks, significantly more interesting, and the graphics are absolutely gorgeous, and so is the music. Black and White are 2 of the best games in the franchise, but they're not an S tier, and it's purely because of their enhanced versions, which weren't even just enhancements, they were full-on sequels, and they are by far the greatest Pokemon games to have ever existed. Black and White 2 are phenomenal. Team Plasma is significantly more interesting in Black and White 2. N is fantastic in Black and White 2. The fact that you get given Zorua and Zoroark is fantastic. Everything is so much better about Gen 5 in Black and White 2, and it's purely because the Unova Dex has been expanded to contain not just Gen 5 Pokemon, but Gen 4, Gen 3, Gen 2, Gen 1, every Pokemon, essentially. And the National Dex is actually a proper feature that you can utilise before the post-game. And it makes Black and White significantly better. Black and White 2 are by far the greatest games in the franchise. And if anybody disagrees with Black and White 2 being the greatest games in the franchise, respond to this. Tag me in it. Ping me on anything. If you're in my Discord server, ping me on that. If you follow me on Twitter, ping me on that. I want to see your takes if you think Black and White 2 are not the greatest Pokemon games of all time. Now we're going to move on to Gen 6. I don't see much replay value in X and Y. I don't particularly enjoy X and Y's story, but I prefer it over Diamond and Pearl because at least there's still some good form of pacing. And that's basically what I can say on Gen 6. Gen 6 has some really good legendaries, like Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde, phenomenal legendaries. And they have some of the best designed Pokemon, but I don't like Gen 6 at all, and it's my least favourite generation, I feel. But the only thing that redeems Gen 6 is Mega Evolution. And this game is an S tier. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire use Mega Evolution fantastically. They do everything right that Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald did, and expand on it. Mega Evolution's part of the story. The Delta episode is phenomenal. You get access to actual Deoxys. It has everything Gen 6 has, but does it so much better. That didn't make any sense in actual English, but it makes it significantly better. And X and Y look really goofy with the designs. Every character has a gigantic head and looks really awkward. Whereas Ruby and Sapphire's remakes, or us, do it right. It's 3D from the top-down perspective, so it still feels like Gen 3. And it does everything that Hoenn did right, but better. I just realised I forgot to rank Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are solid B tier games. Yeah, I forgot about those. Well, that's a bit of a yikes. There you go. Now it's fixed. I forgot those exist, but they're slightly better than the Gen 2 games. But, to be fair, they're probably 8 of them. Because they're better than Gen 2 games, but I say they're on level with Crystal Logo. Okay, Gen 7. Sun and Moon, are B-tier games. They're amazing games, but everything is so drawn out and it is so long. And if you want a better experience, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon do everything Sun and Moon did right, but better, and introduced Ultra Wormholes and made everything a lot more interesting. Pacing issues, there's still some, but overall, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are just Sun and Moon, but better. Now let's go Eevee and let's go Pikachu. I personally love both these games, but I can't say they're the best way to play Kanto. So I'm going to give them a B. They're really fun ways to play through Kanto. Shiny hunting's really fun in it. You get access to the entire decks, essentially. Pokemon Go connectivity, bringing Pokemon Go players into mainline Pokemon is a massive move for Pokemon as a whole. Because Pokemon Go is the most downloaded Pokemon game of all time, with over 600 million downloads. And that is why Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee aren't D tier or aren't C tier. They're very good games, but because of how they change catching and battling, they can't be any higher than a B. Sword and Shield, however, the storyline is the only thing that stops these from being S tier games. Sword and Shield are A tier games. They have incredible gyms. The games are extremely fun. The DLC was phenomenal. The only issue with Sword and Shield is the story. The story is so poor for Sword and Shield. And the rival. Hop is an awful rival. I do not like Hop at all. And maybe I should be a little bit biased to Sword and Shield, obviously being set in Galar, set in the UK. I'm from the UK. I should love these games, but as much as I do love them, they are only A tier games. And now there's games that aren't on this list. There's Legends Arceus, there's Scarlet and Violet, and there's BDSP that aren't featuring on this. BDSP for me is a solid A tier game. They wanted Diamond and Pearl remakes. They got Diamond and Pearl remakes. They made the game fun. I love how BDSP runs, except for when it glitches. When it glitches, it's unplayable and it probably falls down to a C. Do you know what? BDSP probably B tier games. They're actually B tier. B tier games, really good games, nonetheless. They've got essentially most of the Platinum decks as well, and they've done everything right that they could for a Diamond and Pearl remake. Very faithful remakes as well. And if I'm playing through Sinnoh, I'd rather play through BDSP because it's not monotonous and really slow. Legends Arceus is an S tier game. Start of open world for Pokemon. The shiny hunting was phenomenal in it. The only drawback is the story and how little there is when it comes to battles. That's essentially the only downside of Legends Arceus. However, Scarlet and Violet, phenomenal story, phenomenal decks, phenomenal shiny hunting, phenomenal post-game. There's not really much of a post-game. I mean, if you count Area Zero as post-game, then yes, it has a phenomenal post-game. The DLC, it's not out yet, but it's probably going to be phenomenal. Everything about Scarlet and Violet, other than performance, is phenomenal, and that is why Scarlet and Violet are probably the third best games in the series, behind Black and White 2, behind Oras, and then Scarlet and Violet, and then Emerald. But that is every Pokemon game ranked. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you obviously enjoyed it, leave a like. If you didn't like it, feel free to leave a dislike. Comment down what you think about this. Give me your takes. If you're new, subscribe. Share this with friends if you agree with my takes or if you hate my takes. And that is what I feel about every Pokemon game.